Ronan, I need your help, man. My cold calls actually have not been great in 2024, and I think the biggest reason why are these damn objections, man.
Mm.
So I need some coaching on how to best address these to move my conversations forward to hopefully book some more meetings.
Let's see if I can help. I love objections because this is usually the part where cold callers have the most ability to change the outcome of what's going to happen on a call.
Hmm.
Your strength in objection handling and ability to continue that conversation organically comes down to this. So, yeah, let's dive right in from the top because, look, at the end of the day, there's only two kinds of objections, and there is a third hidden category of objections.
Okay.
Category one is your brush off. I'll explain what that is in a moment here. Category two is going to be your real business based objection. Some objections, when you read them on the transcript, could fall into either camp. It just depends when you're getting it in the call, if there was context. Some objections will always be brush offs, and some objections will always be real. The
Okay.
third mystery category is what I'll just call bad data, wrong contact. The reason I call that a mystery is sometimes you'll hear these other objections on the surface, like someone just saying, no, we're all good, no, no. But if you look closer at it, you might realize I should have never called this person in the first place. This was a bad fit. And that third category is what people used to say: if they can't say yes, they won't say yes.
Mm, like that.
But I want to share just real quickly when we're talking about objections, we've got. Here we go.
There we go.
We've got brush offs and real ones. One of my favorite brush offs I wrote here is this a cold call? And then one of my favorite real ones, especially in markets that have lots of solutions that are very competitive, is when someone says to you, yeah, we're good. We already got something for that. By the way, this is a slide from the boot camp that I used to run. The next one is still to be determined, but I have all sorts of other ways to help you through with cold calling if you need it. So let's talk about brush offs. Like, what's going on here with these brush off objections? You will get them typically in the first 30 to 45 seconds of a cold call. And a brush off is not an objection to what you're saying. It's a prospect saying something about the way you sound
Mm.
is leading me to not want to be on this call. And we know actually some of the science behind why this works, the psychology behind how the brain makes these decisions, and understanding this basic concept allows you as a caller to leverage it to sound better and have better results. So if you're getting an objection in the first 30, 45 seconds, maybe even up to the first minute of the call. One of my clients, they have calls that are like 5 to 10 minutes every time. So they're really going deep in with their prospects. If you're getting that objection early, chances are you sound salesy.
Oh, yep.
You sound like a salesman. Maybe you even sound like a used car salesman, or like that guy in Glengarry Glen Ross who just couldn't close a deal, who was so desperate.
They were
Josh
bad
Brown.
leads, Ronan. They were bad leads. Come on, man.
Oh man, coffee's for closers. That's why I got my coffee today.
There it is.
And Josh Brown calls this commission breath. He
Yep.
talks about the need for the headspace of detaching. Don't be so attached to the outcome of your call. And it's true. It's true because you can hear it through the tone. But this sounds like, I'll give you an example of what it sounds like. Oh, hey, Matt, this is Ronen Passar calling from RP Advisory. Look, the reason for my call was to tell you about how our training has helped so many cold callers in the world
Yeah.
book more meetings. And, actually, I would love to see if we could find some time where I could share with you how we might be able to help you, like our customers. Some of my customers are me. It just sounds bad. Everything about
High-pitched
it.
voice, talking fast. Yeah, it's awful. Yeah, it's awful.
It's awful. And by the way, that's how I sounded when I started. A lot
Well,
of
that's how I
folks
sounded
do.
when I started. Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, you're
Yeah.
nervous. Your heart rate is jacked. You're getting this hit of adrenaline. And what you want to have happen in the brain is go from that place of adrenaline to dopamine. You want to go from, I am so stressed out right now that the person answered, to, oh, I am so excited for this opportunity. That takes
Mhm.
about 4 to 6 months sometimes 3 if you're really good at practicing, to make that shift happen in your own brain neurologically.
Well, I'm glad you made that point because I'm sure you get hit up all the time like this, and I get hit up on LinkedIn or in YouTube comments. Matt, I've been doing this for 2 weeks, and I am so stressed and scared to make cold calls, and I sound salesy. Well, you've been doing it for 2 weeks. 2 weeks.
2 weeks. Yeah, and you're going to sound salesy. And guess what? We
Yeah.
already know what happens when you sound salesy. When you sound salesy, you are triggering a heuristic. This is why you get brush off. So this is the science, and then we'll move into some examples and how I handle them. So stay with us on this. This comes from the work of Daniel Kahneman, Amos Tversky, Thinking Fast, Thinking Slow, their bestseller book. They won the Nobel Prize for this work. That's like how impactful it was on economics, decision making. One of the decisions that's being made on a cold call is, does the prospect want to engage with you? There's other decisions down the line too. But what happens is we're triggering the brush off objections because of the heuristic. Salesperson, I don't want to be on here. So essentially in the book, what they describe in one of their big discoveries is our brain is making decisions every day, all the time. Most of them, 95, 96, 97% of them are automatic. That's system 1. System 1 is your automatic thing, the thing in your brain that tells you what to do without thinking about it. It's fast, it's subconscious, and it's very error prone. We make lots of mistakes with it. But by nature, we need it to survive. System 2 is what we want to engage as cold callers. System 2 is thoughtful, it's slow, it's conscious. Now, here's the thing. I trigger system 1, automatic. Prospect goes, I know what this call's about. It's a salesperson. I don't want to talk to you when you sound salesy. So to break that, you need what's called a pattern interruption. The pattern interruption breaks the pattern. It interrupts the pattern. You can call it a pattern breaker, a pattern interruption. It doesn't matter what you call it. Just know, break the pattern. One of the best marketing gurus of all time, Seth Godin, has a book called Purple Cow. It's the purple cow. You want to look different. When they zig, you zag. Shout out to Gary Vee, right? It's all about jab, jab, punch, right? Do things different because different gets people to stop. If you're talking about social media, how do you get them to stop scrolling? It's all the same idea. Stop what they're doing to get them and get their attention. And the way I do this is with my tone. And my go-to opener at the beginning to try to avoid this sounds like this. Hey, Matt.
Hey, who's this?
Matt, it's Ronen Passar here with RP Advisory. How have you been?
Been all right. Can't complain. It's Friday. Looking forward to the weekend. How you doing?
I'm doing great, Matt. Thanks for asking. Hey, look, Matt, I know no one, and I mean absolutely no one likes getting cold calls. I hate making them probably just as much as you hate getting them. You mind if I share why I'm calling real quick, and then you can decide if you still want to hang up on me?
Sounds good.
I appreciate that. Another version of this that we covered in the last video, go check it out. Maybe Matt could even link it here.
Oh, yeah.
Was Andreo's opener, which I love, where he goes, Matt?
Yeah?
Matt, Ronen Passar here. I'm a total stranger. So don't rack your brain. Don't try to figure it out. You don't know me. I don't know you. I'm a complete stranger here. You got a minute?
Absolutely.
Here's
it's a phone call, yeah.
Here's the point. Sound different. That tone is the warm and friendly. That will allow you to avoid getting brush-offs. But let's say, all right, hey, something triggered that system 1 and they hit me with the brush-off. Here's 3 common ones you're probably hearing a lot. Hey, I'm actually in a meeting. I'm running into a meeting. Oh, sorry, I got to go in a minute here. I've got a meeting coming up. Or, how'd you get this number? Is this a cold call? Oh, take me off your list. Or, oh, sorry, I'm so busy right now. Can you just email me whatever this is about?
Yep.
Those are 3 really common ones. Let's talk about how to handle it. So if you're the prospect and I hit you with that opener and you hit me with one of those objections, let's let it rip.
Take me off the list.
Oh, man, Matt, I'm happy to. It sounds like you just heard me say that, and the first thing that crossed your mind was, not another sales guy. Can I have a chance to reset and level set with you here?
You got it.
Hey, I appreciate the shot. Look, so the reason for my call, and then you keep rolling with it.
And you go with it. And you go with it.
Truthfulness, 100% transparency, it is so disarming. And that's the goal. You want to disarm that defensive system. So one of the ways I do this is you just call it out. If you hit me with, hey, how'd you get this number? Here's my response to that. I use a company called ZoomInfo, Seamless, Lucia, whatever tool you use to get your data. And actually, they're a public company. They get the data from all over the internet. Look, the reason for my call was actually to share a little bit more about how I might be able to help you, but I don't want to assume that this is even relevant for you. Does it make sense for me to share in about half a minute why I was calling, and then you could let me know if you still want to chat? You just roll right through it. Acknowledge it, call it out, and then ask them for permission to keep going.
How about the one that I keep getting a lot of is I'm either in a meeting or I'm heading into a meeting in 2 minutes, which I know is complete bullshit because no one's going to pick up the phone if they're in a meeting. That would be very rude, but I get it all the time.
So there is the group of people who are legitimately saying that and the group of people who are not.
Okay.
It's mixed. Sometimes they answer the phone because they're like, is this my kid's school? Is it the doctor calling me back? Is it the recruiter for that job I'm like interviewing for? They could answer for all sorts of reasons. Side note, that's why I don't use local dialing presence, because it just starts off on the wrong foot. You know, they see a local number, they think it's urgent, they think it's a doctor, and then they find out you're a cold caller, game over. That's not honest. Rule of thumb is that, and we know this in psychology too, when you are brutally, transparently honest, people are actually more attracted to that because it builds trust. Mm-hmm. So you want to build some trust. You're a stranger. You're bothering them. So when they say, hey, I'm in a meeting, my response to that is, oh, you know what, Matt? That's on me. I caught you out of the blue here. Look, I want to ask you when a better time would be, but I don't even want to assume that this is relevant for you. Does it make sense for me to share why I'm calling? And if we still, you still have any interest in hearing more, we could find a better time?
And I bet when you deliver it like that, in the past, folks have talked to you for a couple minutes. Once you told them the reason, because the reason for your call resonated, it was relevant to them.
If you go into my LinkedIn, I think it's still there somewhere on my link tree, and you listen, I have a library of like calls I've made. One of them was this prospect who just like blurted out laughing. She was in a meeting the entire call. A Zoom meeting, camera off, mic off. But she was in the meeting. She picked up my call, and we had a conversation, booked the demo. And she was like a bigwig at a big company, too. That was legitimate. And so also knowing how your prospect works, knowing a little bit about their world. Are they on Zoom meetings all day? Is their camera off? Is their mic off? They might be in a meeting, but they might not care. Yeah. They might be ready to have that conversation with you. Alternatively, if they go, no, I'm really in a meeting, try me back later, just shoot them a quick email. Hey, sounds like I caught you at a bad time. I'm going to try you back tomorrow. Just wanted to give you my email. Here's what the call's about. One line.
Got it.
And they call them back.
That objection, like you said, that can be both a brush off and a real objection?
Yeah.
That one?
That one can be legitimate. I've been in the car with my kids screaming when someone calls me, and I think it's important, so I answer, and it's a cold call, and I'm like, I'm sorry. I'm just like, I'm trying to drive, not crash. My kids are screaming. I'm super busy. Can you just try me back later? It's legit, Same if I'm like waiting for like blood results from the doctor or something, and I see this number come in. I'm like, oh man, is that it? And I'm super anxious, and it's like, hey, it's Tony calling about your insurance. I'm like, nope, not happening. So yeah, it can be legitimate, and that's cool. Be ready to walk away from that because you've detached from needing the outcome to be a meeting or to have a next step set up, and you're okay to roll with the punches. That's the mindset piece.
How about like this happens too? I'm sure it's happened to people watching the video. They get hit with not interested, and they didn't even tell them what they do. So like, what aren't you interested in?
I love that. That's a brush off, not interested. And when you get that, so you're getting it probably fairly early. They go, oh, I'm not interested.
Yeah.
Maybe it's even paired with, hey, I'm not interested. Take me off your list. Cool. Okay.
Exactly.
I hit the big red reset button, and here's what it sounds like, Matt. Oh man, I think I'm reading the room here, right? Let me know if I'm not. Sounds like I just sounded like the most grimy salesperson Can I have a second chance? Do you believe in second chances? Can I have a
That
second
oh, I
chance?
like that, man. That's awesome. Do you believe in second chance? I'm stealing that, guys. I'm stealing that one.
And if they laugh, the idea is to get them to disarm, chuckle a little bit. Be brutally honest. How do you feel right now? What do you think they feel? Call it out. This is emotional intelligence, by the way. People with emotional intelligence, high levels of it, are correlated with high levels of success for a reason. They can read the room well. They know how to understand what is not being said. And on a phone call, that takes a little bit more paying attention to how they're responding and what they're saying. But if you say something like that, man, do you believe in second chances? Can I have another shot real quick? I think I messed that up.
Yeah. So
They
that.
may,
So all right, go ahead, Ronan.
I was going to say they might chuckle, and then you go right in with it. Look, hey, the reason for my call was to just ask you really quickly, do you already have a way? And now we're going into the probe and the provoke, which we're not going to get into today, but yeah.
So not interested. That was a brush off, but I take it. Can that also be a real objection? Like, let's say you got to the reason for your call, they heard you out,
Yeah.
and then they say not interested. I'm sure you handle that differently than you handle the brush off not interested.
Yeah, absolutely. So when it comes to the legitimate one, let's talk about a space that's super competitive. And this is one of my favorite all-time objections when it comes to actually getting this. Oh, we're all set. No, we're not interested. Like, how do you handle that? So what I do here is something called a problem stack. It's a way of objection handling when what you've heard was they acknowledge why you were calling and they are good. It's not a priority. They have something in place that's working for them. So what I do is I'm going to try to shift to the next thing that I can solve for. So if you're working at a tech company, chances are you know your top 3 to 5 value props for your product. If you work in a more commoditized space, chances are you know your top 3 to 5 differentiators between you and your competition. They may be things like pricing, quality of service, or something else that lets you stand out. You have to know what your things are. What is your list of things? Because now what you're going to do is you're going to go from your lead to your second. And if you have to, from your second to your third. And I do it with a statement in there that sounds a little bit like this. Hey, I totally appreciate what you just said there, that you're all set and that you've got something in place. In fact, actually, I've been calling people all week, and you're the only one who said that, so congrats to you for being ahead of the curve. Give them a little bit of kudos, right? No one will turn away some free dopamine hit of like acknowledgement. We love that. So acknowledge, hey, good for you. Don't do this. If they say, yeah, our competitor Acme Corporation does this really well. Well, did you know that Acme Corporation has don't start bullying the competitor because maybe their wife works there. True story happened to me once.
You'll lose trust.
Yeah. I literally told someone once their competitor was like, the dumbest, whatever, doesn't do anything well. And they're like, it was like an awkward pause, and then the guy goes, my wife works there. And I was just
In fact, my wife is the founder.
oh no. Yeah, right. I was like, this is so embarrassing. And I just kind of laughed. I'm like, okay, well, this isn't going well. It sounds like I struck out. So here's how you problem stack. Hey, really appreciate you've got something for this, Matt. And you know what? Kudos to you also because you're way ahead of the curve. Say it with that like kind tone of like really patting them on the back. Hey, just one more question for you, Matt. When it comes to now I'm going back into my second problem stack, probe and provoke. Hey, when it comes to this other challenge, do you already have a way to prevent the issue that comes up with that challenge? So if the first challenge was around like automation, and they're like, yeah, my current technology does like some great automation. We don't have a problem with that at all. And the second thing I do maybe has to do with like quality of some sort. And I'm like, when it comes to the quality of what you're able to get, do you already have a way to prevent low quality output? And then they're going to answer like, no, what do you mean? Well, not trying to call your competitor here dumb, but like, have you ever considered an alternative that allows you to have that high quality output exactly the way you want it? And I'm just making this up on the fly.
And if they answer yes, you're then interested. Oh, that sounds great. I haven't heard someone say yes to that question. How do you do that?
Bingo. Yes. Okay. You want to try to understand the how.
Okay.
Understanding the how is going to allow you to know, is what they're doing still something that is not what I'm talking about, and therefore we just didn't understand each other? Or is it legitimate? So when they say, yeah, I'm actually all good there, I have a response here that I really like where you're able to go in with, and I'll share this one out here too. You're able to go in with like a curiosity mindset. And it sounds a little bit something like this. Oh, that's amazing to hear. You know, it's actually why I called. When you say that they can do that, they have that quality, can you tell me a little bit more about what that means?
Mm.
This is next level X factor, high quality objection handling. And then
That's
they're going
actually
to
my
end up
fault.
giving you. So yeah, that's actually why I'm calling. When you say that, can you tell me, and you want to actually repeat it, can you tell me a little bit more about what that means to you?
Mm.
So this is all for one category of real objections. They have something,
Okay.
competition. They're all set. Maybe what they have is spreadsheets. Maybe what they have is your direct competitor. Maybe what they have is like some third party solution, something else that's like in the middle. It doesn't matter. What you're trying to do is understand what is it that you're doing. If it's direct competition, you respect that they're all set, but now we move into the next challenge. Hey, what about this problem? Is that an issue
Wow.
for you? And there's also in my profile on LinkedIn, there's on the link tree that you can click into, you'll hear an example of this where I went from challenge A. The guy was like, nope, we're good there, to challenge B. And he said again, we're all good there. And I was like, oh, okay, how do you do that? And then he starts explaining it. And it's the most painful thing ever. All manual, lots of hours, lots of work. And I was like, oh, that's actually what we do, but just automated. Would you have ever thought about like all the time you could save if you automated that?
Yeah.
And then that
So,
opened it up and we booked the meeting.
so would you say we're all good there, we're all set, is similar objections to we use a competitor? Would you handle that them like all similar, like the same? Okay.
Exactly.
Okay.
When there's less context, you want to try to clarify so that you make sure you know what they mean. Don't assume. Let them tell you that it's a competitor if they say we're all set. Because it might not be. And you might actually have a good foot in the door to get something going with them.
Okay.
But if it is a competitor, then, and you know that your competitor's pretty good at that thing, great. Move on to the next thing. Or if you know
Okay.
what your differentiator is against that competitor, go plug that in. Hey, when it comes to this challenge, how are you doing that? I know a lot of other folks who are using this competitor said this is sometimes challenging. Are you facing that as well?
Okay. This is kind of an off the wall question, but I know someone like you in your position, you probably don't do this because you're an expert when it comes to cold calling, but someone like me who sometimes struggles with cold calling, how do I like set my desk up I have my cold call opener and the kind of the questions I want to ask over here, and then if get hit with an objection, I have like my objection hit. Like, how do I set myself up for success when it comes to objections on cold calls?
Here's going back to what we started with. You got to get through enough reps. You got to practice it
Okay.
enough. Nothing beats real calls and time in the gym practicing. Those are the two most valuable things any cold caller can do to improve their odds of success. You will get to a point in time when suddenly it clicks and you feel
Hmm.
like you are on another level. I just heard one of my clients' callers do this yesterday. We have a weekly call review, and all of a sudden, after 3 months of working with him, he sounded so good, and he booked a meeting. It was textbook. And I was like, did you see that? This is it. This is that transition that we've been all waiting for. You just reached that next level. Here's what you need to have to get there: enough product knowledge to be dangerous,
Okay.
especially if it's a technical product and you have to know a little bit about the detail. Enough to be dangerous. Not enough to be a complete pro, just enough to be dangerous. You have to know your script cold. I'm sorry. You can't be reading it and expecting it to sound good.
Yeah.
But you can use the script every day. No problem keeping it up on the screen as a guide. Just don't be reading it. And then not thinking about what you're going to say next. Be actively listening to what the prospect's saying And when you can be with them on the call, you can move step by step with them. It's like a ping pong match, back and forth and back and forth and back
Yeah.
and forth. When it's not like that and you're thinking about the next thing, it's like they just serve the ping pong ball and you're kind of like looking out into outer space. The ball goes rolling out. You got to go get it and then serve it back. You just lost the point, another point, another point, and now you're going to lose the match. So to stay with them, the three things you need is enough product knowledge to be dangerous. Know your talking points. Know your prospect's world a little bit. Know your script, what you're going to say, including the way to handle objections. And be ready to be actively listening. Did I just hear what they said? Was I able to hold that into my mind, or am I thinking about the next thing? It's okay if you're thinking about the next thing to say. That just means you need more practice and you need more reps under your belt, more calls.
Okay. Gotcha. So 2 more objections that I think might be
Let's do it.
either brush-offs or real. I'm not sure.
Hit me with it.
Send me an email.
Ooh.
Call me next quarter.
Oh, you guys are going to love this one. Let's do send me an email. So,
Okay.
hey, Matt, I'm more than happy to send you that email. In fact, if I'm being straight with you, man, I've been doing this for a long time. And I am still waiting to hear back from all those people I emailed. Would it be a terrible idea if we found 30 minutes instead? I got my calendar open. It looks like I have Tuesday afternoon and Wednesday morning if that works for you.
Dude, back in the day, when somebody would tell me, send me an email, I thought
sure.
that was
Yes, sir.
great-
Yes, sir.
I
What
thought that was a great cold call, man. I know that I would write up I'd spend like 30 minutes writing the perfect cold email, and I never heard back.
It's true, right? We never hear back from them. And that's the point. I've never heard back from them. Personally, maybe I've heard back from one, maybe. But don't expect them to ever actually reply. Now, here's the catch. If you get that early, it's a brush off. Otherwise, it's usually some sort of like, I'm kind of busy, but this kind of sounds interesting. Maybe give me some information. So it's more of a hybrid objection between the two, but it's usually some form of, I don't really think this is necessary, but I'll take a look at the email maybe, and I'm never going to reply because this is going to be like in the bottom 50 things on my to-do list.
Oh, yeah.
But sometimes it's legitimate. And when it's legitimate, I call this an indication of interest, an IOI. When you get an IOI, you move to close. An IOI is a signal from your prospect that they are interested. Here's an example of how that objection sounds different. Tell me if you can hear the difference. Hey, send me all that in an email. Or, you know what? I got 2 other people in mind. If you send me that in an email, I'll share it with these other 2 guys. You hear the difference?
Yep.
They both sound the same on the surface, but the second one is an IOI, indication of interest. That prospect is saying, something that you said was interesting enough for me to get information and share it with 2 other people. By the way, one of my previous vendors that I used got a meeting with me and ended up becoming a vendor, booking a big deal because they contacted my peer and she sent me an email. And I was like, this is interesting. I booked a demo. Proof of concept later, we're closing like a $440,000 deal with them.
Wow.
So that
comes back to active listening, though. Because if you're not active listening, you're not going to be able to tell the difference between 1 and 2.
Totally. If you're thinking about your next thing, you'll miss it. That's a great call, Matt. Here's the other thing, by the way. If they follow up and they're like, no, really, email would be great. We're going to accept it. We don't want to be too aggressive after we've already tried to push back, but then go with this. Okay, cool. I got you, man. I'll send that over. Hey, do me a favor, though. What would be the most relevant thing for you in that email that's top of mind right now? I want to make sure that if I'm sending you something, it's actually going to be something that you or someone on your team might want to look at.
And what if I come back and I say, just send me whatever you got?
Then I'm thinking it's a legitimate brush off. It's not.
Yeah.
It's not actually real, and I never had them. They're just trying to be polite. In which case, I'll try hitting that big red reset button one more time, and I'll just say, "Yeah, Matt, look, I'm going to send you that email. Don't worry about it." I'm getting the sense that was 3 strikes, and I'll take my exit here in a moment. Can you do me a huge favor? I'm going to send you this email. When you get it, will you just hit reply and just hit any button on your keyboard to let me know that someone who's living saw it and not just your spam filter? And then, if it's all right with you, um, would it be awful if I circled back in 2 or 3 weeks to see if anything's changed or anything on that resonated if I didn't hear back? Start setting up plant seeds for keeping the conversation going.
And then if it is a real objection, they ask for specific information. I take it you're going back to them and asking when is an appropriate time to follow up on that stuff.
If it was real and they're like, no, no, this is like, here's the information I want, but please just send me an email. I just work best in email. I've heard prospects say that.
Okay.
Then I'm going, okay, awesome. And hey, look, I just want to give you a heads up. Sometimes I send emails and they create more questions than answers at the end of the day. Would it be an awful idea if what we did is we penciled in 15 minutes so that if you had follow-up questions, I could be prepared with those sometime next week to go over them? Sometimes it's just easier to do this over a call. And if we need to cancel that or move it, no worries. But I have my calendar open. How's Thursday looking? And that's a softer meeting set. That's not a hard one. You know, anything you can do to keep the ball moving forward, get a few more yards, get a first down, keep driving down the field towards the end zone, that's going to be beneficial for you, for the deal, and that'll help you move the ball forward.
This is really going to help me out, man, because like for me, I would have, I don't have it in front of me right now, but I would have like a sheet of paper and I would have the objection here and then I would have how I want to handle it here and I had all my objections on a piece of paper and I had a different like process to handle each different objection, like a different process to handle. We use a competitor and we're all set when really you could kind of use the same process for a couple of these things. And it's not about, like you said, it's not about the words as much as it is about, the delivery and the framework. So, and it's stressful when you try to like memorize shit like this, dude.
Totally.
Yeah.
Let me share one last thing. I'm going to do a few rapid fire tips here for objections in general.
Perfect.
Instead of trying to write down every single way to handle every single objection, find it on a paper and read it. Because like I was doing that too. By the way, that's great for practice. But when you're live, it's more important to be with the prospect on the call than trying to read for the next objection. So what I suggest doing is using a framework which is easier to remember. And the framework that I like to use is this one. I want you to always be armed for objections. Anytime you hear it, there's 3-step process. Acknowledge, respond, and then the meeting. I use meeting, but really it's ask. It just sounds better if I say armed. So it's really ARA, but let's go with armed. And so an acknowledgement is anything that lets them feel heard. That's the first step. So if they say, hey, you know what, Matt, this is kind of interesting. It might be more relevant in like 3-4 months from now. Oh, okay, cool. It sounds like it'd be better if I circled back to you in next quarter. That's acknowledging. I'm showing them I heard them. That's addressing a basic human need to be heard. My wife reminds me of that all the time. So this is all relationships too, by the way. So hopefully you could take this into anything. Like you show people you hear them, you're going to improve your relationship quality, and that dynamic is going to improve, including cold calls, brand new relationships where no trust. But that builds trust. That is disarming. Next is the response. How do you want to respond to it? This is where trying to write them all down and practicing can be helpful, but you don't need anything crazy. You don't need anything that's like super sharp or clever. In that case, if it's like, hey, 3 more months, what I might say is, look, I totally get that this might be a little bit too aggressive on my end and maybe not a good use of your time, but if we spent 30 minutes together where I could show you how you could receive this benefit, not even like do it, but just understand it and explain the benefit, would that be worth a 30-minute call so that in 3 months from now, you know how you might be able to achieve that when you're ready for it? You have to be able to offer something valuable for their time. It's got to be an exchange. So in this exchange,
Or not.
exactly. Usually it's an exchange of, I'm going to share information with you. I'm going to show you something that if you put this into place, you'll get this value. You'll get this return on your investment, this return on quality, this improved speed. Most people want things done faster and better quality.
Yeah.
And the ask there is sort of baked into the response, but the ask could always be something like, would it be crazy? And I like the Chris Voss, go for no-oriented questions. I know you know this. I know a lot of the listeners on the past videos have heard this before. Don't ask for the yes, ask for the no, which is really a yes disguised in a no. And it sounds like, would it be a terrible idea if we found 30 minutes where I can show you some of the benefits so you understand when you're ready to receive them, to do the thing faster, better quality, that you know how that works.
Yep. And I know, I'm sure, have you read any of Anthony Iannarino's books, Ronan?
No, I haven't.
They're really good. He was one of the first sales authors I checked out. His one book, The Lost Art of Closing, he explains in the book exactly what you just explained. When you're asking for a meeting, you need to convey the value of what they're going to get in that meeting, regardless if they buy your product ever. They're going to learn something in that meeting to make their job easier and get new insights that they need to make their job easier. So he's a big, big proponent of that.
Totally. In Cialdini's Laws of Influence, very popular book, he talks about the law of reciprocity. So when I give somebody something, because of our tribal brains, we have this magnetic pull to give back. That's why the other day I had wine. I don't drink wine, so I go to my neighbor. I'm like, hey, you want this bottle of wine? 3 weeks later, they gave me a bottle of wine. It's so strong. It is so strong. The Hare Krishna folks, if you've ever seen them in the airports or walking around, they give out like bracelets or flowers, asking nothing in return. And yet they've raised hundreds of millions of dollars in donations with this one tactic. They walk up to people with a smile and they give them a gift, a little token. That's why stamps.com will send you free labels for your envelopes with your name on it. If you give someone something in return, the law of reciprocity teaches us that the other person will feel compelled to give back. Now, I don't want you to manipulate with that necessarily, but be aware of it. So if I end up giving someone something of value in that time, and that's what they can expect, at some point they will come back around. There will be some feeling of I have to reciprocate. I have to give you. And that reciprocation could just be them sending you an email, not ghosting you.
There you go. That's good. And that's good. Oh my God. Dude, I learned a ton in this crash course. Like I said, guys, I've been struggling when it comes to cold calls. I don't make as much of them as I used to when I was in SDR. So it's always good to get back up to speed with what's working, what's not working, and how to better, handle these to move conversations forward. I need to build up my pipeline. I have a humongous quota that went up, $1 million for 2024 compared to last year. So I need to build my pipeline and set these meetings. So I know, Ronan, this is going to help out. We have lots of links to Ronan in the description of this video. There's a link to his free cold call framework script that booked 183 meetings in a year, and he was only calling 3 to 4 days a week for like an hour.
I call it the 1 meeting a day script.
The 1 meeting a day script. I know I could get 1 meeting a day. I need to get 1 meeting a day. So we got that down there, and then I'll link his website as well. And then as he mentioned, you don't know when the next cohort's going to be, right?
Yeah, it looks like I'm probably going to have some sort of course alternative of what the boot camp was, so it's lower cost. But if you follow along and you sign up for that, if you download the script, you'll be added into my newsletter, and that's where I share updates of what's happening. And I also do one-on-one stuff and corporate training. So if you ever want to bring me into your team, or if you just want to see what it would be like to work one-on-one, hit me up. We'll see if it could work.
There you go, guys. So gain access to that stuff in the description of this video. Ronan, I can't thank you enough for hopping on here and teaching everybody, especially me, selfishly, how to better cold call, because I definitely need it. Guys, like this video, subscribe, and then look out for future videos with Ronan later this year. We appreciate you, man.
Thank you, Matt.